Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is my first video, so it might be a little rough, but I have an idea that I think would be really fun to do. I am reading the Stormlight Archive for the first time, and I thought it would be fun to really just document the process. It's really raved about on BookTube, and I've seen on Goodreads that it's the highest rated fantasy series on Goodreads right now anyways. So I thought it'd be fun to read the book and to just document my process of reading it. Also because how many times have you had the thought that you wish you could read your favorite series or one of your favorite series again, like for the first time? So I thought it might be fun. You can kind of experience reading it for the first time with me. So basically I think what I'm going to do is, currently I've read the first 3 chapters plus the prologue and that. So I'll kind of go through the book, summarize it, and then I guess talk about like my thoughts, my opinions, and my predictions for what I think is going to happen. I'm not too sure how this will evolve, but I have to start somewhere. So I also have the issue of I grew up in a very small town, so I never really had anyone to talk with about books, and I'm a very introverted person, so talking for me is difficult. I'm used to being the listener, like in a group of people. I'm not the talker, I like to listen more. So expressing my ideas and opinions can be hard for me. So that's also another reason why I wanted to start this channel, is to just get more comfortable with talking about stuff, whatever it is that interests me. So yeah, I have the first book here. It's a library book, which I'm realizing I should probably annotate from here on out. I didn't do that for the first 3 chapters, so I did a quick recap of the book before starting this video, and I'm already realizing how much stuff I've forgotten just in the first like 50 pages. So I'm gonna have to figure out a system of annotating. I think I'm probably just going to buy like some post-it notes or something. And I did see there was one booktuber I saw, she had see-through post-it notes that you could put onto the book, so you can write on it without actually writing on the book. So I might try those if I can find them. But yeah, so let's get into it. Context before I start the book. I was a huge reader as a kid, but I think along with a lot of other people, as I grew up, I started reading a lot less. Like, I still would read, but I'd probably read like maybe 1 or 2 books a year. But about a month ago, I don't really know what clicked. I picked up a book, and generally I read like big books like this. So I picked up a really small book that had barely any writing on the pages, and I finished that book so fast. I read it in like 3 days. It's what was the book? Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. Loved it. It's kind of sci-fi, but almost like just a little sprinkling of sci-fi, and it's told in a non-linear fashion, and I just loved it. And since then I've been reading a lot more. I also make it a habit. When I was a kid, I would read in the car all the time because I grew up so rural. I was just in a car a lot, or in the bus on the way to school, so I would read like an hour or 2 hours a day just being in a car or a bus. So as I got older, when I got my license, I stopped doing that as much. So now that I live in a bigger city, I take public transit, and I'm in the car with my boyfriend a lot, so I'm the passenger again now a lot more. My reading time has gone way up because I always make it a point to bring my book with me whenever I'm either in a bus, metro, or in the car with my boyfriend. So I just recently got back into reading. There was that book, and my friend introduced me to Brandon Sanderson. I actually didn't know about it beforehand. I read a lot of fantasy as a kid, but again, as I grew up, I had I need to read adult books, and I should be reading like intelligent books, so I mainly read classics. I pretty much stopped reading fantasy But when I was a kid, my favorite books were, of course, Harry Potter, and my other one that stuck out was I read The Edge Chronicles when I was like 8 to 12 years old, and that was my favorite series. So now I've decided I'm going to read fantasy because I like reading fantasy. I think that was a part why I stopped reading so much, was because I wasn't reading books that I actually found interesting. I was reading really dry classics that were really hard for me to get engaged into. Like, I tried reading War and Peace when I was 15. I don't remember anything from that book because I just was not at a point where I would like get anything from that book. Like, I'm going to try rereading it in the future, I think, but at the time, yeah, it wasn't for me. So to start off with, I'm very happy because this book has maps and drawings and pictures, which it's been a long time since I've read a book that has that. So there's a map of the world of Roshar, I believe. And I will probably get a lot of stuff wrong, but we'll just get through it. So it starts off with a prelude to the Stormlight Archive, and I believe this starts off with, we start off by meeting Calic, and it opens with him being next to a thunderclass that is dead. I don't think it's said that he kills it, it's just that there's a dead thunderclast. And then he ends up at this place where there's 7 swords placed into the rock, and he adds one and he's waiting for someone else, and I believe it is Jezrien. And there's a 10th person that doesn't show up, so I guess he's believed to be dead. And I believe they leave and they say, Calic thinks forgive us, then he leaves. So I don't really know what's going on right now. There's 10 kings or masters in the past, because then in the next book, or in the next part, book 1, The Way of Kings, it's 4,500 years later. So I know going into this book that there is a lot of lore, and I know that the book is told mainly through flashbacks from what I've heard. I try to go into books being as like knowing nothing about the book. I like to be as blank as possible going into the book. I really don't like spoilers, like, at all. So yeah, I try to stay away from any spoilers. Like, even I don't read the blurbs on the back of books because I just want to be totally surprised at everything that happens. I am a big fan of just the unpredictable. I really don't like reading books where I know exactly what's going to happen next. But yeah, so book 1, there's a map of Alethkar, and this is the prologue, and it's called To Kill. I'm seeing every single chapter starts with an epigraph. Again, I have no idea what these really lead to. They all seem to center around the year 1171, and it's right before someone dies. So we'll see what happens with that. And the first chapter, or the prologue, starts with Seth's son Villano, truthless of Shinovar. And it seems he is an assassin, and he's sent to kill the king of... So this is why I need to annotate, because I do not remember like anything that has happened, and I know there's so much info that I need to keep track of if I actually want to understand the book. So I think he's Alethi. The king that he kills is an Alethi, but I'm not sure. And I believe he's dressed as a Parshendi, but he's not actually a Parshendi. And the book ends with him, he ends up killing the king. But the big cliffhanger at the end of this book, or at the end of this chapter, is that as the King Gavilar is dying, he says, tell my brother he must find the most important words a man can say. So he dies, and then Seth writes it on the wall and then leaves. I should also preface this by saying there will be spoilers. It's as if you're reading it with me, so if you don't want spoilers, I guess don't really watch this, or make sure you've read the chapters before you watch this if you don't want to get spoiled. Spoiled. So part 1, Above Silence, Kaladin and Shallan. First chapter is Stormblessed, and there's another epigraph. Again, cataloging what someone said like right before they died in the year 1171. Don't know what this means. Oh, also, was it Calic can use Stormlight? This Stormlight was kind of described, but not fully, and I haven't read what the magic system is like. I want to see what the magic system is as it unfolds. I don't want to read about it beforehand. So the first chapter is 5 years later, after Calic has killed the king. And it centers around basically Ken, Dalit, and Kaladin. And Kaladin, I believe, is going to be one of the main characters of the book. So there's a battle. I don't remember the storm. I don't remember. The plains of something is where the battle takes place. I'm really terrible with remembering place details and such. Let's see if I can quickly find it here. Okay, so there's Amaram's territory. But yeah, so basically there's a battle. And I don't think it ends off saying, like, it ends off kind of on a cliffhanger. It doesn't really say who's died and what happens with the battle, who wins, who loses and stuff. But I believe shard bearers are introduced. And there's some blank spren words introduced, which are really fun. So then we get to chapter 2, another epigraph, and then 8 months later. And at this point, Kaladin is a slave, and he's in a cage with a bunch of other slaves. One of the slaves dies. He meets a wing spren, I believe, and he talks to it, and by the sounds of it, they're like little fairies, but they're not intelligent. But she says his name, and he's like freaked out by that. Oh, and he had leaves, and he was going to poison one of the slavers, but then he like accidentally crumbles it because he gets worked up over the one of the slaves that they kill. And he feels defeated after that, and that's how the chapter ends. And then the next chapter focuses on, yes, Shallan. And there's this beautiful, this is what I'm super excited for, is beautiful drawings like this. And how I take it in the book is that these drawings are made by Shallan herself. Like she always has a sketchbook with her. And she was on a boat traveling to the city of Bells. And she is after a certain person. Who is she after? Starts with a J, I think. Who is she after? I can't remember. Jasna. Yeah, Jasna is who she's after. This is another... Oh, they don't call them princess. They call them... Oh, what do they call them? Brightness, I think. Instead of princess, it's brightness. So this Jasna is another, like, princess. Oh, I actually didn't finish chapter 3. I still have 3 pages left, so I guess maybe we'll end it there. I don't want the video to be too long because I don't really know how to edit and all the kind of like logistics to making a video yet, so just kind of go over like how I feel. Like so far I'm loving the book. I definitely need to pay more attention to the names, and just I need to pay more attention to the details because it's very obvious that there's going to be a lot of details, and I actually want to understand what's going in the book. I think I tend to do that just in general when I'm reading. I don't really immerse and like focus enough. I think just because when I'm reading I have a lot of trouble focusing. I'm the type of person where, you know, I read the same paragraph like 5 times, but I have to read it again because I just was zoned out the entire time I read it. So I really think annotating will help me with that. But yeah, so far I love it. I don't really have any predictions right now because I don't really know what's going on yet. I'm assuming the 10 knights are going to come back at some point. I'm going to understand what that meant. And I think Kaladin and Shallan will meet at some point. They're in two completely different parts of the world right now, so I feel like it'll happen like quite a lot later in the book. Also because it's a 1,000-page book, it's gonna happen a lot later. But yeah, other than that, I think that's all I have to say for now. Thank you for watching, and I guess subscribe if you want to see me go through this journey. You'll get notified when the next part comes out. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to break it up yet. I think I'm going to just do a couple chapters at a time and start from there, see what happens. If the videos get too long, I guess I'll like shorten down the amount I read, or if they go by quickly, I'll read more at once, just so that I have enough to actually make a video out of it. But yeah, thank you for coming on this journey with me, and I hope we have fun.